New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Live from a secure concrete bunker somewhere in Ohio, New Thought Media Network presents Pastor Michael Mangus with Friday's Fireside Chat, spiritual conversation for today. Here he is from the secret radio room, surrounded by thousands of watts, Pastor Michael Mangus.
Well, good evening to one and all across the United States and also around the world. It is time once again for another fun-filled, throw-packed, and yes, it is guaranteed exciting edition of the Friday evening Fireside Chat here on your New Thought Media Network. I am the Reverend Michael Mangus. I am broadcasting this evening from the super secret radio room surrounded by thousands, and I mean thousands of watts in the extremely secure concrete bunker somewhere around Akron, Ohio. That is so top secret. Only one person knows where it's at. And it requires an extremely high level of security clearance to even get near. Now, my boss, the Reverend Dr. Robert Brzezinski, who is the Chief Visionary Officer here at the New Thought Media Network, he thinks he knows where it's at, but he has no clue, and we're going to keep it that way. Well, hello there. We have a very special show for you this evening. No news tonight. No commentary. I'm sorry. I know that some of you are disappointed, but I think that we'll make up for it tonight. Please feel free to interact with us. Yes, we are live this evening. Post your comments on Facebook and or on YouTube. And for all my shy people out there, I know that some of you just don't like to comment. I get that. So all you have to do is to send me an email, pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. Just send me an email. Let me know what's going on. If there's topics or things that you would like me to talk about, again, please feel free to contact me, pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. So the purpose of our fireside chat each and every Friday evening at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time, is to talk about contemporary issues from a New Thought perspective. And as I keep saying week after week, I want us all to have a new thought about what is going on around us and how we can be a part of the solution. And you do not have to agree with me or my guest this evening. But I want us all to start thinking about how we can bring about a world that does work for all. We are so honored this evening to have with us recording artist Flamy Grant. And that's a picture I took of Flamy at the Theology Beer Camp this year. Let's see if there's a picture of in purple. That is the bluest drag hair I've ever seen in my whole life. But Flamy is absolutely wonderful. She is an award-winning and Billboard charting artist, and she is a shame-slaying, hip-swaying, singing, songwriting drag queen from Western North Carolina. Her 2022 debut record, Bible Belt Baby, reached the #1 spot on the iTunes Christian chart. She was the first drag performer to achieve that feat. She was nominated for the Best Pop Album at the San Diego Music Awards and was named one of the top 10 queer country albums of 2023 by Rainbow Rodeo Magazine. Yes. And her single Good Day, of which we'll play a little bit later, also debuted at #20 on the Billboard Christian Digital Sales Chart, while her recently released sophomore album, her second album, called Church, has already reached #8 on the iTunes Country Chart. Flamy is a winner of the 2023 Kerrville Folk Festival New Folk Competition and a 2023 Queer X Award nominee for the Best Drag Artist, and has been featured in Rolling Stone, Entertainment Weekly, People, and even the Christian Post. Isn't that interesting? Her music has over 1.2 million streams on digital platforms, a powerhouse vocalist and songwriter who blends both country, folk, gospel, and roots music. Flamy delivers a theatrical, therapeutic, and a wholly original storytelling experience, all shared through the art of drag. Now, last year, the shift hit the fan. When Flamy went ahead and charted on iTunes and Billboard Christian charts. And boy, did she receive heat from the evangelical Christian world. We're going to play a video of that here in a moment. I attempted to have her on the Fireside Chat a year ago, but then guess who showed up at the theology beer camp I went to in Springfield, Missouri? Of course, it was Flamy Grant. And guess who was in concert this year at this year's Theology Beer Camp? With opening artist Ivy King, who was a show in herself. What a great opening act. So here is a short clip of some of the evangelical reaction to Flamy hitting high up on the Christian charts.
Queens at the Dove Awards.
By now, you've probably heard that a drag queen went to #1 on the Christian charts.
This song that has been sweeping Christian charts is actually a song by a drag queen, a performer named Flamy Grant.
Oh, it's Flamy, all right, because the whole thing's going straight to a devil's hell. I can promise you that right now.
This drag queen says, I'm here in all of my draggy audacity to demand they reckon with reality. Really? You're a man wearing prosthetic breasts.
Whoa. They're just trying to troll traditional Christians.
America really is on the verge of destruction.
They're just getting started in their deconstructive attempts to destroy Christianity. These are truly the last days.
Jeez Louise, what does a girl got to do to bring about the apocalypse? Jesus, we're waiting on that second coming.
Oh my, it is my honor to have with us this evening, all the way from North Carolina, Flamy Grant. Good evening.
Hi, Rev Michael.
How was that? How was that? Now you put that together and your team. How was that seeing that tonight?
It took me back. Yeah. It was quite a little firestorm for a second, wasn't there?
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, you did get some threats. Is that correct?
Oh, was it a Tuesday? Then yes. That's just a par for the course in this job. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask first, how are you and your husband doing? I know you live in the area that was hit by the hurricane. How are the two of you doing, and how is your area doing?
Well, our area is definitely struggling. It's you know, it's unbelievable to drive around and see the devastation still, even after what I don't even know how many weeks in we are, 6 weeks now, something like that. But it's still it's going to be a long time, long recovery. But we're okay. My husband's okay. All my family who lives out here, we all weathered everything relatively well compared to a lot of people. So we're hanging in, and things are starting to feel more not normal, but water is back and power's back, and and we had snow this morning, and that was a nice wintry moment, and we got to take the dog out and just enjoy that. So yeah.
So one of our churches, Centers for Spiritual Living, Asheville, their whole parking lot was wiped out, gone.
Yeah.
And so myself and others, we sent money to help rebuild the parking lot. And CSL Asheville, they are known they open their building up to the community. So when their building is down, it really, again, it affects the community because a lot of other activities happen there. So,
yeah.
Well, all right. So give us a brief background on how Flamy Grant came about. And that now you grew up in the Christian church, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I grew up in a denomination that's called Plymouth Brethren. Although I didn't know that for the longest time growing up, because we didn't really refer to ourselves that way, or we didn't refer to ourselves in any way. We just said we were the chapel, we were the assembly, we were just gathering and meeting in the name of Jesus, and that was what it was about. But it very much falls on the far fundamentalist side of any kind of theological spectrum, and women don't speak. They're not permitted to speak during services. They have to cover their hair. So it's highly patriarchal. And it's a trip. It's the kind of thing that you grow up in and don't really know that you are in what is essentially a cult, because it's your normal, it's your one of my favorite movies is The Truman Show, and the line in there where Christoph, the creator of The Truman Show, says, someone asks him, why does Truman never suspect that he's the star of this television show? Why does he never suspect that his world is askew? And Christoph says, we accept the reality with which we're presented. And depending on how airtight that reality is, which in conservative evangelical fundamentalism, it's pretty damn airtight. Like, they do a great job of creating just a whole way to live in the world without ever having to interact with the world. So that was me. That was my experience in my life, and I was only allowed to listen to Christian music growing up, and so that's what I loved. And Amy Grant, of course, being the queen of Christian music, was just one of my icons and heroes. And so when it came time to pick a drag name, and that was a thing on the table, that was the first thing that came to mind. Flamy Grant. And so yeah, I've been making music in the church my whole life. Was one of those kids that probably came out of the womb singing. My family was just kind of a musical family, and took a little bit of like piano lessons and things like that. I did choir in school, but mostly I'm pretty self-taught when it comes to music, and taught myself to play guitar in high school and started writing songs when I was 9, and just became a worship leader in my adulthood, first for more traditional conservative churches, and then as I grew and became who I am, moved to like progressive spaces and queer affirming spaces, but for 22 years in some way, shape, or form I was a worship leader, a music minister in church. And yeah, that lasted right up to pandemic and even into pandemic a little bit.
So then what happened during the pandemic?
Well, we all had a whole lot of extra time on our hands, didn't we? So I didn't get a sourdough starter as a lot of people did, but I did spend hours, excuse me, hours and hours watching YouTube makeup tutorials. And I filled that time by learning the art of drag and practicing in my bedroom. And it was something I had been interested in for a while, but, just had never really had the time to explore. So that's those early days of pandemic were just me painting, buying costumes on Amazon, live streaming with my housemates in our basement. We would do a live stream where we just sang cover songs, and I started showing up to that in drag. And before I knew it, it was becoming a way of life, and eventually did become my my full-time job. So yeah.
We'd like to welcome one of our co-hosts on our program, Reverend Jeff Radcliffe, who unfortunately could not be here this evening. He just got out of the hospital. But Jeff is a wonderful reverend, pastor, also gay, and just a wonderful soul. He could not be here tonight because, again, he was not feeling very good. But he wanted me to ask a question. Mm-hmm. Does Amy Grant know about Flamy Grant? and have you ever talked to her?
I have not. I have not spoken to her directly. Not yet, anyway. I suspect it'll happen. I hope it happens. She is still a personal hero to this day. And yes, she does know about Flamy. She has a copy of my first album on vinyl in her home, thanks to a friend of hers who came to one of my shows and bought it for her and had me sign it for her. That was that was a harrowing moment, signing a record, knowing that Amy Grant was going to be the recipient. So from what I know, the people I've spoken with who know her, I think she gets it and thinks it's fun and cute, and so we'll see one day. I hope to get to meet her and say thank you for giving me this name that's carried me into a new chapter and a new career.
Yeah, how wonderful. So talk to us about attending the Holy Grail of Christian contemporary music, the Dove Awards, with Semler and Derek Webb in drag. Mm-hmm. How did that go?
Ooh, well, it went, that's for sure. It was so the Dove Awards, the Christian Grammys for just an easy description there. Christian music Grammys. It was something I would have loved to attend when I was younger. I always wanted to be a CCM artist. That was my that was the thing I would say when people ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd be like, I want to be Stephen Curtis Chapman or Michael W. Smith. And that passion, that desire shifted and changed and morphed over the years and really waned. I really had no interest in contemporary Christian music past, I don't know, the year 2002 or 3 or 4. But it was an interesting opportunity because of the role that I now, kind of occupy in the world, where I am kind of this, for better or worse, the Christian music drag queen. And because I have made friends like Semler along the way and like Derek Webb along the way, we decided to go. Semler had done it the previous year. Semler had gone to the Dove Awards just, as a ticket buyer and sat in a seat. And we decided to go and do something just a little bit more visible this time, which was for me to go in drag and Semler to be also, just very visibly looking sharp, and Derek came as
Dress.
well. And
Yeah, he rocked that dress.
he absolutely rocked that black and white dress. It's a look for sure. I think we have to credit his wife Abby for styling him that night.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we all went and we put out a call, an invitation to, just our friends and fans on social media, and told them kind of where we were buying seats, which was just up in the nosebleeds, about the cheapest seats we could find, and just invited other people to buy seats in that same section with us and join us. And it was, we made it really clear we're not doing any kind of protest or anything like that. We're not there to raise a ruckus. We're just there to be. We're there to exist as queer people, as visibly queer people in an industry that, otherwise is very, not even just unwelcoming, but like outright antagonistic to queer artists. So, Semler and I had both kind of had big years. We both had number ones on the iTunes Christian charts, and just had some interesting successes. And so we were like, let's go celebrate those successes at this industry event. Well, for me, it was a lot of, I called it kind of an exploratory expedition. Like, let's go in and just see what the Doves are like and see what they're all about. And I did find out a lot of what they were about. And I would say there were a couple of major takeaways for me. The first being, I was surprised at how many people came up to me and kind of whispered in my ear, hey, we're glad you're here. We love what you're doing. Keep up the good work, that kind of thing. But really, really did almost whisper it in most cases.
Yes.
There was no like big fanfare or anything like that. It was people kind of coming out of the woodwork to tap me on the shoulder. And I at first I was like, well, this is cool. Like, there's all these like folks who are clearly affirming and excited about what we're doing, working in this industry, and representing here tonight. But then the more that it happened, the more frustrating it became, honestly, because it was like, oh, you're all out here like privately affirming what's happening with the queer community and our representation, and yet none of you seem to be doing that in any kind of public way where it actually benefits and helps and supports queer artists. Cool, like that was an interesting realization to have, was that nobody yet in the industry has been brave enough to kind of take that that first step to say, no, we're going to be the label that signs a queer artist, or we're going to be the the promoter that like pushes an artist to radio. Like, so that was an interesting takeaway. And then the really disappointing experience, the part of the experience for me, was witnessing how deeply entrenched and enmeshed with Christian nationalism the industry is.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's not like necessarily a huge surprise, but it was still. I was thrown. I was really thrown by watching some of the speeches and some of even the prepared, canned bits from the presenters that were just written to. There was a moment where we were talking about installing Jesus as the leader of the government of every nation on the earth, and the whole room like erupts into this like fist pumping huzzah moment. And I was just like, this is a music awards show. What are y'all doing? What is happening in this room right now? Why are we like rallying for Christian nationalism instead of just honoring some good music? So
right,
that was super disappointing, and definitely eye-opening, and left me pretty confident that that's the only and last time that I will ever find myself at the Dove Awards or in an industry event like that. the CCM industry is not where I want to invest my time and my effort. I'm not going to be working to change that that industry. What I do is on my own, in my own spaces, and I'm carving my own pathways and I'm figuring it out as I go. But I'm not interested in being a part of an industry that props up that kind of authoritarian religious ideology.
We have a comment. Laura says, "Wow."
That about sums it up, Mara.
That sums it up pretty well. So, Christian nationalism, we talked about that on this program. Personally, I've read several books about it. I find nothing Christian about it.
Oh, yeah.
Not at all. It's the whole idea of it puts patriotism as the God rather than Jesus or any type of spirituality. So, and that's scary because we elected number 47 going back into office. My concern is for you and your husband. My concern is for my friend who's been with her partner for 40 years and who got married a couple of years ago. That's my concern, is that rights that have been carved out for the LGBTQ community are going to be taken away, and also that individuals will start saying that the Trump administration gives them license to go after LGBTQ individuals as well as immigrants, as well as women. So what's your comments on that?
Well, probably wouldn't be a broadcast friendly. I have fear. I have anxiety around it, of course. Like you, I'm absolutely confident that our rights are gonna come up for they will be challenged in the next 4 years, and we may very well be taking steps backward as far as human rights go, not just for queer people. Certainly for queer people, definitely, but not just for queer people. We've already seen women's rights struck down in the Supreme Court, this facade of a court that we have. People of color are at risk, immigrants are at risk, the disabled are at risk. It's going to be a fight for all of our lives. And that's what it's going to take, is all of us working together. We have to have solidarity as we move forward, and at the same time, not lose sight of our responsibility as global, the supposedly the most, greatest nation, right? Like that we love to say we are. We do play a huge role in the world, and there are people around the world right now who are in far worse shape than queer folks, even, and women in the States. There are folks who are literally starving to death, are literally being exterminated, and we can't lose sight of our need to ally ourselves with them as well, and fight within our own country, and fight against what our own country is doing to enable those sorts of things. So it's just going to be I expect it'll be an exhausting 4 years. I also expect that there will be a lot of beauty and joy that we experience, because that is what we do. Joy is resistance, and we are here, I believe, to experience joy and to share joy and create those moments. And honestly, nobody knows how to do that better than people who are oppressed, because no one values it the way oppressed people do. You look at folks who are in power right now. You look at this, what's her name? Nancy Mace right now, who is taping paper signs over the women's restroom in Capitol Hill that say biological, making it say biological women's restroom, because we now have a trans member of Congress, Sarah McBride, has been elected. And I look at that woman, I look at Nancy Mace, and I just see misery. She is a miserable human being. And like that person does not know joy in any capacity. So at least we have that going for us, At least we know how to celebrate our communities, lift each other up, and create moments of joy for each other.
Well, if you wondered what you stumbled onto this evening, this is the Friday Evening Fireside Chat here on your New Thought Media Network. I am Reverend Michael, and I'm talking this evening. My great honor is to be speaking to Flamy Grant, who is now, do you consider yourself a Christian artist, Christian music artist?
I do. Right now, that's what, I've been releasing my music in the Christian genre. And my friend Derek Webb loves to say the term Christian, when it's applied to anything other than a person, is just a marketing term. And I really like that definition, because that works for me. That allows me to say, yeah, I'm a Christian artist with full integrity.
Well, I hope my boss doesn't chew me out at the Monday morning meeting, because I'm going to forego the break. Because I find this conversation extremely fascinating.
Sorry, boss.
No, that's yes. Mara says yes. So scary. Not true Christian values. Yes. Good evening to Pamela. She says, good evening, Reverend Michael and Flamy. Interesting show. Mara came back and said, my whole ancestral lineage has been escaped genocide. We must stand together. Absolutely. Genocide all over the world, and queer communities in many places in the world, especially in Africa right now. And Mara says, love to you both. Well, love to you, Mara. Thanks for joining us this evening. So, Flamy, when did you know that you liked boys rather than girls? And did you tell anyone growing up of your attraction? Any close people in the church? And how was, if you did, what was the reaction to that?
I knew something was, I knew I was navigating things differently than my peers by probably third or fourth grade. I didn't have language for it. And I didn't even, I wasn't experiencing like sexual attraction at that point in my life. So I didn't have words for it until much later. I think probably middle school is when like I first learned words like gay and lesbian and homosexual and that kind of stuff. And that's when I started to realize, oh, I think I'm that. And no, I did not tell anybody until my first year of college. I kept it a deep, deep, dark secret until my first year of college. And I finally told my best friend by opening up the book of Romans and pointing, to in chapter 1, one of those clobber passages there, and kind of sliding it over to him and saying, this is the thing that I struggle with. I couldn't even say the word gay for years. So,
did you go to a Christian college?
I did. I went to a little Presbyterian school in Bristol, Tennessee called King.
Okay.
And, I was involved in drama ministry there and chapel, leading worship at chapel and stuff like that. So I was, there was nowhere that was an easy place or a safe place to have these kinds of conversations. So it was a risk telling even my closest friends at that time. And thankfully, my friend responded really kindly. And so at least that first coming out wasn't a trauma for me, but it was, but not for that reason. But yeah, it was a slow process. Coming out for me was a decade-long process, most of my 20s. And it started with, conversations like that, where I would say I struggle with same-sex attraction, or, I'm trying to change. I'm that kind of thing. I self-enrolled in conversion therapy for 5 years. I had like accountability pastors on church staffs where I was involved, who, I had to check in with weekly to make sure I wasn't stumbling. And then there was a period of my life where I was just, I had kind of reached the point where I was like, I can't change this about myself. I've tried, I've done all the best practice, quote unquote, followed all the research from these organizations like Exodus, and it's not working. I'm only getting gayer. So I decided
whose founder went ahead and came out.
Exodus is thankfully now a defunct organization, because the founders came out and said, hey, it didn't work for us either. So sorry, everybody. I entered a period where I was like, well, I'm gay. I'm just going to have to accept that is what I am. But I'm going to commit to being single and celibate, So for a long time, that was how I lived, openly that way, within the church community I worked in and everything. So it wasn't until I was 28 that I finally was like, okay, I'm gay, and that's okay, and I'm going to date and be a queer person in the world.
Talk about the last church you worked for. I guess that there was some conflict or with the pastor, and I know you sang about it in one of your songs, but go ahead.
That's not the last church I worked for. That's okay. That's the church I helped to start in San Diego. I moved to San Diego in 2006. And for 5 years, I was part of a church plant there called City Walk. And that's what I'm singing about, that relationship in one of the songs on the new record, a song called Revenge, interestingly enough. It was just it was one of those situations where that so many queer people have experienced, where you're involved in the life of a church and you're a contributing member. And in my case, I was not just a member, but a leader. I was on the leadership team. I was a founder. I helped start the organization, and I was the worship leader for this church. And I was processing all of this stuff that I just talked about while we were doing that church, and while we were building that church. And I talked about it openly in my small group, and talked about it openly with the pastors, the pastor was my best friend. And people either got it and were kind of along with me for the ride, or they just kind of smiled and nodded, which I took to be, oh, they get it and they're along for the ride. But really, they just weren't owning up to their own beliefs and their own convictions, and they just weren't being clear. And so when I finally hit that point where I was like, I'm gay, I'm going to start dating, and let's go. Let's start this next chapter. That was when I crossed the line for a lot of them. And they said, well, you can't do that. You can't be in leadership at this church and date men. And so it was a little bit of a blind side to me. But ultimately I had to leave that church. I couldn't stick around. So that's unfortunately an all too common story among queer people. Absolutely.
And so I wanted to ask you, since you are familiar with Theology Beer Camp, in September, theologian Richard Hayes, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
I know the name.
Along with his son, Chris, he published a book called Widening of God's Mercy. And he explained his change of view about homosexuality. What happened is that Dr. Hayes had written a book in the 90s that went ahead and said that homosexuality is still a sin, and many people who were agreed with them. However, there's been, again, a shift and a change that, especially among the theological community, of which you've seen at Theology Beer Camp, Trip Fuller, Thomas J. Ord, who unfortunately he was defrocked and excommunicated this year from the Church of the Nazarene, of which he had been a lifetime member. Peter Innes, who I met there, who's a Bible scholar, the late Tony Campolo, who unfortunately passed away this week. So my question is, do you think that the evangelical church is changing its view about homosexuality, or is it just becoming more entrenched in its belief about same-sex relations?
I mean, I'm not a theologian in the way that any of those people that you just named are, and I'm not even a person who cares as much as any of those people. Like I don't go to church anymore. I'm out. That's been part of my journey over the past few years. Is I perform in churches all the time, but obviously progressive ones that are interested in my message and what I have to offer. But I'm out. I'm done. I gave the first half of my life to the church, and I've decided that the second half is for me. So I don't really have much to say about the evangelical church anymore, and what they're where they're going. I don't care where they're going. I am interested in creating an exit plan for people who want out, and so that's where I'm at in my journey. That's what my art is about. And thankfully there are, lovely, fabulous, affirming spaces where people can, if they're still interested in having that church life, which I understand is really helpful and meaningful to a lot of people. You can still have that.
Yes.
And it can be so much better than it is in evangelical spaces.
And it can even be online too. So,
absolutely.
We have the whole idea of art. One of the criticisms of social media, of what we do here at New Thought Media Network, has been, well, you guys don't form community. And we haven't found that to be the case. We have found, again, a very close walk with individuals, very accepting, very opening to all. And so I think that, and I understand about the church. It's just saying, I gave half my life to it, and now, I'm just, I perform there, but I don't go. So they talked a lot about at Theology Beer Camp about deconstruction. Do you still have a belief in God or spirit, and how has it changed over the years?
Yeah, I think for me, the place where I'm at currently is that I don't find belief to be all that helpful for me. Belief by definition is something that's not true. It's why we have to believe in it. If it were true and provable beyond the shadow of a doubt, it wouldn't be called a belief. It would be called a fact, or science would have confirmed it, that sort of thing. So I don't know. For me, I'm only speaking for myself, but for me, belief is just not a thing. It's not a construct that I like to operate in anymore. I don't want to make a claim about, well, I think there's this kind of deity, and I think that deity interacts with us in this way, and it has these expectations of us. I'm much more interested in practice, spiritual practice. So for me, that there's a range of things that covers, but just everything from this kind of stuff, conversations with other people who share that interest. I feel like is a spiritual experience for me. Music is certainly part of my spiritual practice. Things like yoga and meditation, being outside, experiencing nature, all of that feels like ways that I connect to whatever might be out there. And again, I don't have a name for it anymore. We can call it God, the divine, spirit, intuition. I think all of those things, any and all of those things, could be equally helpful paths to wholeness and happiness, which I think is the point. That's where I'm at. Am I living a life that is joyful and happy, and do I feel like I'm complete? Do I feel whole?
Yes.
So those are the things that I'm in pursuit of, and yeah, I think there's something more than what we can physically see and touch, but I don't know what that is,
and that's okay. Yeah. And you lean to even have me say that. I mean, it's just it's where you're at. So let's talk about the latest album here, Church, which is your second album. And what inspired you to, what was your inspiration about putting together this album? And talk to me about some of some of your favorite songs on it.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like this record is, it is kind of my thesis on the experience of being a queer person who grew up in church, and not just grew up in it, but made church for a lot of years, and I think it all really does get summed up in the last song, If You Ever Leave, where I'm really just saying, if you want me to worship a God, you have to prove to me that God loves better than I do. I see no value. I see no purpose or reason to worship a deity that sucks at loving people.
Yes.
and that's, I'm sorry, but that is what the evangelical God is. That God is a terrible lover. He's the worst. And his followers are no better. So it's I don't think that's too high a bar to set for a deity, to ask that God be able to love more fully, more inclusively, more completely than I can. And I don't know, until I'm presented with I guess a viable deity that meets that criteria, I'm content to be in the mystery of it all. And so, yeah, it really is kind of Church is kind of my farewell to the church. But it's also an album by a drag queen. So it's got, it has some good cheeky humor, I hope. It has some bangers on it. It's a country, disco, gospel, rock, folk album. It's just this melange of all of my favorite things. And so it's fun in places. And then it's also, there's some really like sincere songwriting on there, and some really raw and vulnerable songwriting on there. So it's a journey, I like to think. I think that song I mentioned, If You Ever Leave, is probably the song I'm the most proud of in my whole catalog. I feel like I just feel really proud of that lyric and that composition. But I love I love all the songs. There's a song on there called Leslie that is just how I processed and tried to honor one of my heroes, Leslie Jordan, who passed away a couple years ago. A queer, teeny tiny little short queen of an actor from Chattanooga, Tennessee, who everybody might remember from Will and Grace and all sorts of things that he was in. But he was always an inspiration to me, and hurt to lose him. And so I just wrote a little homage to him, and I love that song. And the song Revenge, I'm really proud of as well. It's I think
it's not about getting revenge. It's
exactly.
Right? That's right.
There's a little bit of a fun deception happening there. Little
it's
bait
like
and switch.
Y'all need to be in therapy.
Yeah, y'all need therapy, girl. Yeah, exactly.
Y'all need to be in therapy.
Well, I feel like the mental health industry has been propped up almost entirely by people who have been traumatized. And I think it's time for the traumatizers to pay their fair share and start going to therapy and supporting the mental health industry themselves.
Absolutely.
That's my stance on that.
And they should start paying for all the people that they traumatize.
They should pay reparations.
we only have a few more minutes, and I wanted to play the song that put you on the charts here, Good Day. So I wanted to also plug the tour coming up, which is make the Yuletide gay.
Right.
Many wonderful places. If you go to I want to say Amy, but if you want to go to flamygrant.com, you'll get all the tour schedule. But a lot of great cities in North Carolina, also in Tennessee, and around the country. But make the Yuletide gay with many. So what is your set list like for this? Are you going to throw in a couple of Christmas tunes, or that's still a secret?
Funny you should ask, because I'm actually I was working on it just before this conversation. I'm going to have, so the way this show works is, as you can see, there's 3 artists there, and that's Chris Matthews on the left, Spencer LaJoy in the middle, and me on the right. And Spencer will be with us in the second week, but we've got a different artist the first week and the last week. The first week we've got Jennifer Knapp. Last week we have Heather May. And it's an in the round, like Nashville style concert. So we all 3 share the stage together. We take turns singing our songs. We kind of play off of each other. We'll perform on each other's songs, especially as we learn them better along the way. But it's a lot of fun. We did it last year, and it's just one of my favorite ways to do a show. It's so much more fun than just being by yourself on stage, having some other incredible artists to hang out with. I'll probably about half of the songs I do will be more holiday themed, and then the other half will be my originals.
Make the Yuletide gay. If you'd like more information on on that and the albums and everything, if you go to flamygrant.com, flamygrant.com will give you a lot more information about what's coming up here. And just always enjoy seeing you at the beer camp, and hopefully now, you know what I do during the rest of the year besides host the Fireside Chat is I work on a conference team that does media. So I'm gonna put a good word in for you at some of the other places that I do conferences, which I think that'd be very open and affirming, and would love your music. And
You're
also,
very kind. Thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome. And do I have permission to use your music on New Thought Radio?
Sure thing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, actually, I better be smart about this. My first album, Bible Belt Baby, I own, and you have permission to use that.
Okay.
The second album, Church, is actually owned by my label, Seamus Records. So I think they have to probably grant permission, or as long as there's like licensing and royalties being paid, then it should be fine. But yeah.
Okay. Well, we're on 365, so I think that they do royalties. But I'm gonna.
Then you're probably fine.
I'll check with my boss. I'll check, with the Reverend Dr. Robert Brzezinski, who's my boss. We'll check with him, and yeah,
I know we're all worried about getting in trouble with our bosses. I'm worried about my label. You're worried about your boss. Yeah.
Well, no,
we got to do it right.
Well, yeah, it's the Monday morning meeting. I have a Monday morning meeting every single week, and he's usually very nice about stuff, but we're all out of time. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your joy, your love, your light, your hope that you share with the world. You're just thank you for being you. And and if there's one thing, that I will do is I will support my LGBTQ brothers and sisters here. And we're all going to get through this next 4 years. And
we will.
We will. All right. Thank you again. Hang out in the green room here, and let me close out the show, and then we'll play a little bit of Good Day here.
Thanks so much for having me, Michael.
Oh, you're so welcome. And we're out of time. Do you believe that? We are all out of time here. Let's see here. Now I'm going to stop sharing that. And I think I'm going to share something else. Well, anyhow, just wanted to let everyone know again, thank you so very much for being with us this evening. Thank you, Maura, for all your kind comments here. And again, ntmedia.org, please go there. All of our programs are on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So this will be on there. Please feel free to share this on other social media platforms. Get the word out again about that, not only this wonderful network, but the music of Flamy Grant, and just again, what a blessing she is to the whole world. So hold on here. Let me get to my, there you go. This is what happens when you do your own tech work. All right. That's not working. Okay. I'm supposed to share my screen and it's not doing it. Well, anyhow, what you can do then is you can, oh, there it is. Okay. And we'll go ahead and we'll do that. So we're gonna end tonight here with the song that was the song that put Flamy up on in front of everyone, and that is "Good Day." Again, thank you so very much for joining us this evening, and we will see you next week here on Positively Inspiring New Thoughts Media Network. On behalf of myself and the rest of the staff here, again, thank you so very much.
It's been a while since I sat with you without a knot in my chest. Oh, it's been a while since I wanted to. I always felt a little unpressed. Oh, it's been a while. It's been a while since I went ahead and let down my guard, 'cause I carry the weight of the words you said. That makes it just a little bit hard to reject the lies you perpetuate. You're not the keeper of the pearly gate, and it's been a while. I'm coming back to fight for my place. Good day to come back home. You sent me away, but I was never alone. You were afraid there was not enough, but you can't run out of love. So I get to stay, and I'm sitting in the front row. It's a good day to come out of the shadow. Got me good in every way, so I raise my voice to celebrate a good day. It's been a while since I could admit that there was something missing. I've seen enough, no one loved it. Yeah, what love is, and not content to fade into the crowd. And when you decide who's in or out, I'm coming back. I'm living proof that it all belongs without a doubt. Yeah, a good day to come back home. Send me away, but I was never alone. You were afraid there was not enough, but you can't run out of love. So you stay, and I'm standing in the front row. It's a good day to come out of the shadow. Got me good. place covered in the good graces of an endless love. It's a good day, nothing's gonna keep me out of the light. I'm not gonna hide, I got a heart of the right place covered in the good graces of an endless love. Today, come back home. Took me away and I was never alone. You say there was not enough, but you can't run out of love. So I here stay and I'm dancing in the front row. It's a good day to come out of the shadow. God made me good in every way, so I raise my voice to celebrate a good day. Yes, I will.
Thanks for joining us this evening for Friday's Fireside Chat with Pastor Michael Mangus. Join us again next week at 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain for more spiritual conversations for today. For more information and replays of past shows, please visit the New Thought Radio and Media Network's Facebook page. Until next week, may God bless you richly and abundantly.